Hello there, model railroaders, and welcome back to Cruise Rail. It's been a while since I did an At the Workbench video, so here we go with a quick wheel sets upgrade and what tools I use. This goes along with my tool time presentation, which will be at the September Sunrise Division NMRA meeting. So as you can see here in front of me, these are all the tools I use. Digital calipers, wheel set removal pliers from Micromark, and a wheel turning tool from Micromark. I also have two sets of wheel tuners from DCC Concepts that I picked up from Iron Planet Hobbies. Be sure to check them out. Hashtag not sponsored. And of course, you should have a standards gauge in your toolkit. And last but not least, if you haven't already, pick yourself up a laser cut NMRA weight ruler, custom designed by yours truly, and a digital scale for today's video. The car I will be updating today is my chassis hopper I won at Sparky 107's Christmas Day video, taking the code 100 wheels out and putting in some Intermountain semi-scale wheels. Along with that, we will be swapping out the number 5 KDs with some 158 whisker couplers. Now you can see I also have a bunch of other wheel sets here. These are from Reeboks, available still on eBay. They come with a smaller axle length, which will be apparent later in this video. The axle length is part of the part number at the top, and I will explain that just a little bit later. So let's put those back and clear this workbench off and get started with the hopper. First thing I'm going to do is set it on its top and get these wheel sets off using my trusty screwdriver. While getting these off, just letting you know this is a voiceover, so they may not line up quite with what I need to do. We'll get that out of the way. Now these wheels, you can use the wheel removal pliers from Micromark. Slide them in between the journals of the truck and the wheel set, and they should pop out easily, not always. But you have to be careful, because if you overdo it, you can break these trucks. Again, spreading slightly to pop the wheels out. For the most part, these ones work pretty well. Or you can use your fingernail like I do and pry one side, and the wheel should pop right out. Once we have those wheels out, I take the digital calipers and measure the axles, making sure that I'm either in inches or millimeter depending on what I plan on measuring with. So we're going to stay with inches on this one. So I know these wheel sets were already free rolling at the current size, so I'm not actually going to use the wheel tuners in this. But the original wheel sets you can see are just about 1.007, give or take a little bit. I'm actually going to be putting in some Intermountain wheel sets, which I have already previously measured. Let's get these old 100s out of the way. The semi-scale Intermountain's axle length is 1.003, which is perfect for these trucks. I don't have to use any of my smaller ones. And again, just measuring to be sure, give or take 1.003, maybe 1.004. Margin of error is okay with that. As you can see, both of these say 1.004. But I test all four. They all seem to be about that size. So these wheel sets get 2 thumbs up from me. There we go. Go ahead and pop these back in. Easy goes in, spinning freely. Checking all 4 of them. If any of them don't, I would take the wheel tuner to the trucks, spinning it a couple times to clear up any flash inside the truck, but these all seem to roll freely. Let's go ahead and bring the hopper back in, get the couplers popped out with my trusty screwdriver again. get the rest of the tools out of the way. So I want to replace these number 5s, which have the brass spring, with the 158s, which have the whiskers. Sometimes they pop right out. Every now and then I have to take a flathead screwdriver, like I'm about to now, to pry the brass spring out. Actually, it just fell right out. There we go. Grab the 158, and as you can see here, there's the difference between the number 5 with the brass spring and the 158 with the whiskers. So much easier to do. Never have an issue with the springs. I am going to make sure I put this the correct way around, which is currently upside down, just like the hopper, because we've all done it to where we've put the coupler in the wrong way around, get it all back together, and notice the hose is on the top. But get the screw back in here. I will also pop the trucks back on while I'm on this side. I also want to make sure that the coupler is bouncing back and forth freely. Now with the trucks, when I screw them in, I tighten it all the way down to where it doesn't move, and then I back the screw out just a little bit to give it enough play to rotate. The other side will be slightly different. As you can see here, we lost the spring off of the old number 5. I have a pill case that comes with the KDs, usually the older ones, that I have full of these springs just in case. So putting that aside to put in with those later. Let's go ahead and get this coupler swapped out. And as you can see here in just a moment, sometimes those springs pop out. It's really easy just by tipping the car over. Again, putting the 158, making sure it's the correct way up, or dropping it like I tend to do because I have too many fingers or not enough fingers. I need more hands. But again, get my hands out of the way, get that screw back in there, making sure not to cross thread it, testing that it floats back and forth. And then with this truck, not only do I want freely rotation after the screw's all the way in, but I back it out a little more so I get a little side to side play or up and down play as well, which reduces the wobble when it's going down the tracks. There we go with that. That was the easy part. Semi-scale wheel sets in. Let's go ahead and check and see what the weight should be with my NMRA laser cut weight ruler. Should be able to set the car right in the flangeways. They are NMRA specs. We want to place the left end of the car to the left end of the rulers and read to the right. This one should be 4.5 ounces. You can also read inches, centimeters, and scale foot. This one shows about 50-foot hopper car, slightly over, technically. Get that out of the way, bring the digital scale into place. Make sure it's zeroed out by pressing tare. I know we can't see it very well from this view, but it will be zeroed out when I set it back down. And placing this car upside down will keep it from rolling and give us a more accurate number. And as you can barely see there, it is 4.2. Remember, we were looking for 4.5. While I'm not going to worry about adding weight right now because I can't take the lid off, I will be adding liquid weight to the spaces here in between the hoppers. It's about the only place I can add it currently. I will also be checking coupler height at a later date. But for now, let's get the scale out of the way. And even though I did it earlier, standards gauge, we want to check the wheels. This is actually better to do this before it goes on the car, but even just a quick check like this, making sure they're all in good standard. And if you're lucky, you order from Otter Valley Railroad. They will send you a metal business card that has HO scale wheel gauge, N scale wheel gauge, N scale track gauge, and HO scale track gauge. So testing it with this, it's the same thing. This is really handy to have in my toolbox when checking cars at train shows. But either one of those will work. 2 thumbs up so far. Now we can work on these two trucks that I'm not very happy with the quality of rolling. They come off of a Atlas articulated auto rack. I've already done the center ones, so we only need to do the 2 outside ones. But getting these out, they're not too bad. The only thing I don't like about these, and is why I bought the Reeboks wheel sets, is because these are only about 0.93 inches. And knowing that the Intermountain wheel sets are over an inch, that's a lot of material left over inside the journals. That is too much to take out using the wheel tuners. Again, as you can see, I think at 0.9325-ish. Again, the space between the journals, it won't work with the Micromark wheel tuner. Plus, it only cuts on one side at a time, as you can see here. I've already measured these at 1.03, 1.04. The DCC Concept ones, HO scale, are 0.980, 0.984, and the 001s are 1.03, 1.02. They also have N scale. So if you're doing a lot of N scale, which I haven't purchased a set yet, I will be using the 0.980, 0.984. This one looks like a set of wheels, but there are cutters on both sides of this, so it stays centered in the journals compared to the Micromark one, which only has the cutter on one side. It also means you have to flip it, and if you have a tendency to stretch those too wide, again, you can break your truck, and I'll show you that a little later, what happens when they break and how they break. But that pops right in. I'm going to go ahead and get some of this out of the way. But I usually take these, you can spin them by hand, but I'm also squeezing the journals together to cut more material than what would normally be taken out. This one, I spin the wheels back and forth. I can also take it and run it along my finger, but I know this isn't going to be enough. So the space between the journals, I'm going to test with one of the Reeboks wheel sets. Since I'm looking at 932 for the original set, the smallest Reeboks axles that were available were the 960s, so 24 millimeters or so, but in the part number there, 0960. And since the wheel tuner was 0.980, I'm hoping that took out enough, but I want to test these. There's still not enough free rolling, thumbs down. So we're going to have to do this a couple times. I'm going to put a little more pressure on the trucks, and I'm just going to go back and forth as much as I can, taking out as much material as I can. Again, I'll end up doing this 3 or 4 times, both sides, to get the wheels to actually spin freely. It's getting there, not quite, a little more. So again, I will go back and forth with the wheel tuners, taking a little more material, squeezing the journals together, putting a little more pressure while spinning these in both directions to remove material, popping it out, putting the wheel set in. Again, making sure I squeeze, but being very careful not to push too much pressure on the trucks, because that's what happens. You break the trucks. Now I tried gluing these back together. Yeah, it didn't work. Glad I had extras. But be careful when putting in the wheel tuners and the wheels, especially if the wheel tuner is larger than the normal axle length that came out of the trucks. But again, here, spinning it, seeing if it works. If it doesn't, throw the wheel tuner in. I'm actually, like I said, I'm going to use the larger one here. It's only slightly larger, but I can get a better grip on this one running this up and down my finger while squeezing the journals together on the truck. And once I do that a few times, throw the wheels back in. See if I get any better free rolling, much better on these. So we're going to switch to the other side. But again, it is also easier, instead of trying to force the truck apart with wheels on the other side, take the wheel out and then put the truck tuner in. The nice thing about these truck tuners with the DCC Concept ones, the one that has the wheels on both sides will work on trucks that still have couplers mounted to the truck. But this one that I currently am using works best for trucks that are open. And again, I'll do this a couple times, both sides, till the wheels run and roll freely. Once both wheel sets are in, I will check both sides to make sure they still, because any pressure from either side will cause one side to bind. But I'm good with that on this truck. I am going to do the other truck off camera once I run this one a little bit more. And again, that was because one side wasn't quite up to snuff, but I will do this off camera. And we're back. Both of those are now rolling freely. Again, Reeboks, find it on eBay. I will leave a link in the description below. And just for demonstration purposes, these wheel sets are Rapido. I can tell because the size of the wheel on the outside looks different. Just checking the axle width being just over an inch there. Again, Intermountains are just over an inch. I do have Katie, Cotty, semi-scale wheel sets as well. I just don't have any on hand currently to measure. But if you follow NMRA's recommended practice 24.3, HO axle length should not exceed 1.035. But knowing that most of the manufacturers' wheel sets axle length varies from 0.93 up to 1.035, be sure to find Reeboks online on eBay. I will leave a link in the description below. Pick up your truck tuners, either the Micromark or the DCC Concept ones, which are available at Iron Planet Hobbies, #NotSponsored. It's good to have a couple different sizes, knowing that the axle length varies between manufacturers. Be sure to pick up your calipers, checking those axles. These were from Amazon. And if you haven't already, make sure to message me and pick up your NMRA weight ruler. I have many available. N scale, HO scale, HON3, HON30, ON3, ON30, with and without flangeways. Making sure your rolling stock is the correct weight. And rolling freely allows you to pull more freight cars on your railroad. Again, laser cut NMRA standard weight rulers. Message me at cruiseraillines@gmail.com. Again, thanks for watching.